Hello and welcome to another episode of The Brothers Discuss. I am Alex.
And I'm Chris.
And we've got a lot to talk about. This is going to be Trailerpalooza. It's a lot of Disney stuff, first and foremost. Before we get into trailers, let's briefly talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Is that actually what it's called, isn't it? The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special?
The official name.
Yeah, like Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, what did you think?
I thought it was pretty good. It was fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it as well. And maybe it wasn't quite what I was expecting. We did get some musical numbers. We did get some fun stuff. I thought it would have been a little closer to the Star Wars Holiday Special in terms of it being like a variety show, like the old holiday specials used to be. But this worked well. This is like an hour-long film, basically, and continuity-wise, there was some nice bridging there with the second Guardians film, or at least Infinity War and Endgame to the next one. The stuff with Mantis being Peter Quill's sister was nice, and I thought it was fun. Kevin Bacon was very entertaining.
Yeah, as is Dave Bautista, of course.
Yes. And do we have any more to say about the holiday special, or should we just talk about the Guardians 3 trailer?
Let's talk about Guardians 3.
All right, cool. Continuing on with our James Gunn discussion, because we didn't really talk about this prior, but we didn't really talk about him being the new head of DC. Like, I don't know what you'd call that part of it. Like, DC Entertainment is the whole company, DC right. Films, but he's also overseeing video games and stuff like that. So I don't know what you'd call that. But anyway, it is funny because it's like, you get a new job and you also have to do stuff with your old job. It's funny to see that online because, as we've talked about before, he's very active on Twitter, which is still chugging along and nothing much has happened. So I guess that was a big nothing for now anyway. But anyways, back to James Gunn. But yeah, the Guardians 3 trailer was very cool. It was very different to the trailer they showed at San Diego Comic-Con. I watched the bootleg version of that where it's all shot at an angle, and because when you shoot a screen from below, the tops of everyone's heads are gigantic.
Gotcha.
A classic Comic-Con bootleg. But this was a very different trailer to that. This one was more of a teaser. Like, Gamora was just there. Like, in the Comic-Con trailer, there's a moment where Quill sees her again and things like that. They didn't do anything like that in this trailer. This was more of a tease for the next adventure. It felt more like, well, the last adventure, I should say. Mm-hmm. It was very dramatic. There was some emotional moments in the trailer, and yeah, I'm very excited for it. The Guardians films, like we've said, they're fun movies. The characters are all very likable. James Gunn's created a really neat world within the MCU, and some of my favorite stuff in Infinity War is the Guardians sections of the movie. So yeah, I'm very excited for it. It looks neat.
Yeah, and I pretty much agree. James Gunn, he knows how to capture both like really tense, dramatic moments, and also putting a big dumb smile on your face throughout the movie. And it's he like, and that's something that in this endless sea of like Marvel content we've gotten, it's still like I'm still excited for that, regardless of just like how messy at best Marvel's been lately with Phase 4. I'm like, this has still got me like really pumped to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So yeah, I'm excited for it a lot.
Yeah, indeed. I will say for the record that I think Dave Bautista hitting the girl with the ball is funnier than any joke in Love and Thunder. But this was not the only Disney trailer we got. Did you see the Ant-Man one?
I did. Whether or not you would call that a trailer, it's up to you, but
I'll just say from an editing standpoint, it was well put together. It kind of re-solidified that Scott Lang's been a real important character, where after watching the first Ant-Man, you wouldn't have necessarily expected that. But it starts similar to how the first show for the first Ant-Man trailer started, with Michael Douglas saying, like, Scott, I need you to be the Ant-Man. And it's all dramatic. It's him walking out of prison.
I was thinking about that when I watched it. I was like, out of all of the franchises that Marvel picked to do this with, they did it with Ant-Man.
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, it's the stuff with the prison and stuff with his daughter, and then there he is with Captain America and Wanda and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, and you go, oh yeah, he's a big part of that movie. He becomes Giant Man and everything,
Yeah.
and then he's the one to come up with the idea essentially to save everyone in Endgame. So I thought it was very good in showing this character has been really important. This isn't a total change in pace between. I mean, obviously this looks a lot more dramatic than the other two films, and the other two films were really advertised as comedies, especially the second one.
Oh yeah.
This one is being advertised a lot more like a big epic film, and I thought this did a good job in saying that this isn't a total, like, we're not changing lanes entirely. This character has been part of this big dramatic otherworldly stuff as well, but it's funny that it's focused on Scott Lang, and then it says Ant-Man and the Wasp, and you go, oh yeah, the Wasp. I don't blame Disney for trying to take a little bit of a backseat and pushing Evangeline Lilly to the side. Like, I don't blame them, but it is funny to see Disney be like, you like Scott Lang, right? Yeah. Anything else to say about Ant-Man?
I mean, overall, I'm not too excited for it, just because I haven't really cared for either of the two Ant-Man movies that much, but I mean, it does look more interesting. It's kind of got like that No Way Home effect where, now finally in the third movie, things feel like they're getting on track more. But
right.
Yeah.
And it's got Kang. Kang's a great villain.
It's got Kang, yeah.
But then we got another trailer from Disney. We got Indiana Jones, the new trailer for that. Remember months ago when Kathleen Kennedy was like, we've got James Mangold. You know him from Ford v Ferrari. And it was like the Disney Day or whatever it was, the Disney Investors Day. And it's like, Ford v Ferrari? And I like Ford v Ferrari, but Logan was such a great film and such a big success. It's funny that Disney, well, at least at the time, didn't want to promote too hard on. He directed something that we kind of own, but things will be different now, I guess. Logan is on Disney Plus now, and Hugh Jackman's coming back under the MCU umbrella technically. So anyway, that's amusing to me. But yeah, Indiana Jones 5. What's it called? I've already forgotten.
It's The Dial of Destiny.
Dial of Destiny. That's it. What do you think of this trailer?
Surprising to say the least. Like I wasn't hyped at all for a fifth Indiana Jones movie with Harrison Ford coming back, mainly just because of where the last one just kind of the impression that one left with me. It was just, I don't need more of this. But the trailer looks fun, and James Mangold's. I've seen bits of Ford v Ferrari. I haven't seen the whole thing, but he did Wolverine and Logan, and he's a really great director, and it's interesting to see him tackle a movie like this, where Indiana Jones movies, generally speaking, are more like adventurous comedies almost. And it still feels like, just judging by the trailer, it still has that charm of it, which is great to see. And it's nice to see that, like, Harrison Ford, he actually cares about it.
Yeah.
Quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, like, he looks great in this. Like, when he showed up at D23, he was crying about the film, and I think we were kind of like, oh, okay, we'll see. But, I mean, I am starting to believe he might be a little genuine with this. Like, I think this character means an awful lot to him, and getting to make one less good film as Indiana Jones, I think that probably means something to him, so that's good.
Yeah.
And John Rhys Davies is back, baby. But yeah, this looks surprisingly good. Like, not only does it have a really good filmmaker, and none of the people involved in Crystal Skull are here, so that's a good sign as well, but the cast are all really good. Mads Mikkelsen is in it, Antonio Banderas, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Boyd Holbrook, speaking of Logan, James Mangold brought him back. Toby Jones, good old reliable Toby Jones. Will he play a Nazi in this film?
Probably.
I hope so, but it looks like he's Indy's friend or something, like maybe a professor of some kind. Like, I think it looks pretty neat. It looks like a fun adventure. I like the Indiana Jones movies a lot, but I don't have this big connection to them like a lot of people do. Like, I have friends who all felt very moved by the trailer, and I didn't have that, but nostalgia does things to people. Not to me, but to other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, this does look really fun. Like anyway, a bunch of motorcycles just drove by. Why does that always happen when I record? Motorcycles drive by. It's Indiana Jones. It's going on an adventure.
He's on the motorcycle.
Yeah, I don't expect we'll have anyone swinging on vines with monkeys in this film. I think this will have a nice sense of fun and adventure, and I don't think it'll be as over the top as that.
Will Shia LaBeouf have a cameo?
Who knows? But
is this going to be like one of those movies where it kind of just ignores what happened in the lesser loved movies? Like, not necessarily like it's a reimagining the ending like the recent Halloween movies did, where it's just a direct sequel to the first one, but is it going to be like Jurassic World, where like it just ignores everything prior or after the first one?
That's a very good question. I don't know. But speaking of monkeys, we're going to get off the Disney train for a little bit. We're going to talk about some non-Disney trailers. So I guess we'll kick things off with Transformers Rise of the Beasts, the sequel to Bumblebee. I guess the Transformers franchise has gone full X-Men mode at this point. Because now they're just doing prequels and like expanding on that.
Is it really though? I feel like I don't know how this fits into everything. And the trailer got me confused even more because the Transformers do they kind of have like, in terms of their design, it's kind of like a blend between like their really classic and slick looking designs of Bumblebee and just the more ugly human looking Michael Bay designs. It's got that weird blend, which kind of makes me feel like they are trying to connect all of this, but I don't know how this timeline works anymore.
Yeah, well, it's set in the 90s, so it's still before the first Transformers movie. But it's after Bumblebee. Yeah, this looks pretty good, I guess. I don't know. It looks
fun. You know, I'm always open to see more of these movies, especially after the fact that it's not Michael Bay anymore. Bumblebee was just really fun and refreshing because you had Travis Knight working on that, and that felt like just the perfect choice for that type of movie. And just the overall atmosphere of that movie, it was just really fun and entertaining, especially for a Transformers movie of all things. And yeah, I mean, as long as you just keep it fun, keep it entertaining, make it goofy. I like Transformers that are goofy. And don't use too many humans would also be nice, which we'll see. I kind of get the vibe that's going to go on both ends in the movie, but yeah.
Who's directing this movie? Is it anyone notable?
His name, but he directed Creed 2.
Ah, I like Creed 2. Creed 2's good. Creed 2 is not as good as Creed 1, but it was totally fine.
It's still good, yeah.
This will probably be a totally fine movie too.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Stephen Caple Jr. That's his name. I just looked it up. Okay, cool. Next trailer we've got is the next trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie. Any new thoughts on this? Because that sure is Chris Pratt saying "Wahoo!"
Yeah. No, because I heard people actually like watch the trailer in different languages, and like the other languages just sound much better for Mario.
That's the weird thing, is that like the cast are all either good or they fit well in the role. Like Jack Black as Bowser, like perfect casting. Like Charlie Day, that makes sense. Anya Taylor-Joy, everyone's good except for Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt, it's so weird.
And he's done voice work before. He's a decent actor, but it's like, what is going on with this Mario movie?
It just, yeah, it seems like the wrong movie. I mean, overall the movie though, it's my standards for like video game movies are kind of low, with like the exception of the first Sonic movie, which was really fun.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm glad you brought up Sonic, because this kind of does remind me of the first Sonic in a way, because it's like the first trailer was so tonally terrible with the Coolio song, and obviously he looked horrible design-wise. And they
Yeah.
went and changed the design, and the movie was totally okay. And it would have been the exact same movie with the original design, but it was not so bad. People will trick themselves into thinking it's not so bad.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this movie will be fine. Then again, it's made by Illumination, so I don't have a ton of anticipation
That's very
in
true.
terms of quality. So we shall see. All right, so next up we got the next trailer for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Any thoughts on this?
I'm just excited to see it. It didn't really boost my hype as much as I thought it would, seeing a new trailer, but like I'm still really, really excited to see it. Probably it's either this or Guardians 3 for my most anticipated comic book movies of next year. I'd probably put Guardians 3 above it, just a
Okay.
tad. But I am still like really excited to see this, and Into the Spider-Verse, fantastic movie, surprisingly fantastic. And you got the same people working on it this time. Um, they know how to make good stories. They know how to make it entertaining and just a really good vibe for all audiences. Um, and also being faithful to the character of Spider-Man. And it's always great to see that, especially when we've been drowned in mediocre at best Spider-Man content for such a long time, with the exception of, the Spider-Verse movies and the video games they're doing right now. It's just been an interesting time to be a Spider-Man fan, to say the least.
Mm. Yeah, I just feel like no matter what, I feel like I'm just going to enjoy it regardless if it's good or not. It's got the Spot as the villain. We've not seen him in action yet in these trailers, but I have a huge soft spot for the Spot.
I feel like that's the same deal with, from what I remember from the trailers for Into the Spider-Verse, they kind of hid Kingpin until like the last one, I think. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to
but
remember.
yeah, he wasn't in too much footage in the trailers. He was fairly hidden. Um, but yeah.
But we're gonna wrap this non-Disney discussion up with the trailers with the peak of cinema right here, and that's the first little teaser we got for Barbie. What did you think of Barbie?
uh, Barbie looks interesting. It looks like a lot of fun.
It really does. I am excited for the double feature day of Barbie and Oppenheimer. That is going to be so much fun. Yeah, this looks really fun. I love that the houses are all like Barbie style houses where there's no walls or anything. It's
It's great.
it
Yeah.
is great. I love it. And I have no idea if the 2001 homage is going to be in the movie or not, or if that was just created for the teaser. Either way, I quite appreciate that very much. If it was made for the teaser, bravo to them for making stuff
Yeah.
for the teaser.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I guess we can go back to the Disney track now. So we both watched the latest Star Wars show, Andor. Chris, I'll let you kick things off first. What did you think of Andor?
Andor is Star Wars content that everyone should watch, because this is Star Wars content that is kind of needed right now. Just full disclosure, I think this is the best Star Wars content we've gotten since the original trilogy, and I know that line for the most part is a pretty just non-existent line, basically. Um, but I thought it was really, really great. And it's nice to see, like for the first time in who knows how long, like that this franchise feels just more like science fiction than science fantasy. And that felt really, really great to me. And I was really worried going into this show of just like how safe this could have been. You don't know too much about the characters. Are they just going to solo this? It's going to be like, oh, he meets K2, they become friends, they're going to go on adventures across the galaxy and fight a comically evil villain at the end with a lightsaber. There's not a single lightsaber in the entire show.
Which I was amazed by.
Yes, not once. And I think that's actually the first Star Wars product to not have a lightsaber at all, which absolutely crazy.
I know, and yeah, this is just a really good show. I think my thing with Star Wars is that I love when Star Wars doesn't give a crap about being Star Wars, and it just does its own thing, and I think Andor does that brilliantly. I don't have too much to add to this because there's so much I could gush about all day, but I'm not going to just because.
Just watch the show if you
Yeah,
haven't already. That's pretty much all we can say. Yeah, it's really great stuff, and like just compared to like what we've gotten this year with Star Wars, we got Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, and both shows were not that good at all. um, and then you have those two characters, and you have like a character in Rogue One, and Rogue One didn't really have like a character. It was just Star Wars the movie, but he gets his own show, and it's surprisingly great because, like you said, it's just Star Wars doing its own thing. It's not trying to stick to a formula. It's not, planning out like how do we connect this to this. It's just doing its own thing, and it feels great. And I wish more Star Wars stuff would do this. I don't need to see Obi-Wan and Vader fight again. I don't need that. I just want like new stuff. I want new new worlds, new characters, just new ideas, and explore different backgrounds of this really what would have otherwise been a limited world that this series takes place in. It was just good guys versus bad guys. Now it's kind of breaking that line a little and showing the gray areas and all of that. And that's what the show did really well. So, yeah, just go watch Andor.
Yep. Big recommendation for me. Big old thumbs up. All right. So continuing on the Disney train, I think this is the last thing Disney-wise that we have to talk about, or at least I have to talk about. And that is Disenchanted, the sequel to 2007's Enchanted. The first Enchanted, and it's funny looking back on it because it's kind of a big anomaly by today's standards because it manages to both successfully pay homage and make fun of Disney's old fairy tale films of the past or their musicals of the past. And it's very tongue-in-cheek, obviously, but that's just totally unlike Disney today, right? Like their main focus is just remaking their animated classics now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the 2010s, Disney released Tron Legacy and Tomorrowland and all these other films that try to be like, we're going to be the new big franchise. Like they essentially run the course of Pirates of the Caribbean, but like they were hoping it would be the next big franchise, like John Carter or the Army Hammer one, Lone Ranger. Like all these failed attempts at a new franchise. And I'm surprised we're only just now getting a sequel to Enchanted because it was successful. I think it made like 400 million against an $80 million budget, something like that. It's not like that year it came out. There was a lot of big films. There was a Pirates film that year, Shrek 3, Spider-Man 3, Transformers. It was a big franchise year, and most of those franchises still exist today, which kind of shows you the state of movies today as well. And an Enchanted sequel is made just for content on a streaming service. I mean, that's really sad for me, but that's besides the point. It just wasn't very good. We live in this age where now Enchanted is nostalgic for people. And this film from 2007, like people have fond memories of it, and now we can dig it up and bring it back, and everyone's young enough that they can still play these roles. And one of the aspects from the first film that is really strong, and I know this is me saying this, but James Marsden in that first film is so funny. Like he's so good in it, and he's barely in this one. And Timothy Spall, he's another funny part of the first one. That, like in the animated sequences, he's the bumbling sidekick to Susan Sarandon's Wicked Queen character. And he plays that character in live action, like really funny. Like you take away these important elements from the first film, the whole fish out of water element that also makes that first film fun. And then what are you left with? I guess to explain the plots, Giselle, Amy Adams' character, she and Patrick Dempsey and Patrick Dempsey's daughter moved to a place that's like a rundown theme park, like a Disneyland style place where there's castles and stuff like that. And they're moving to one of these homes, so Giselle can feel more at home after living in New York City for years. And the daughter is resentful, and she gets a magic wand from James Marsden and Idina Menzel, and she wishes to live happily ever after or something like that. And this causes the world, like the whole planet, to be turned into a fairy tale place. And Giselle starts becoming an evil stepmother because she's the stepmother to Patrick Dempsey's daughter, and she's forcing her to do all this stuff. So Amy Adams in the movie, I think, is quite good because she gets to play both the airy fairy princess Giselle character, and she plays this wicked stepmother at the same time, and she's very good. So that is a big positive I'll say about the movie. But the rest of it, I don't know. Idina Menzel gets to sing a really big song that feels like, oh, she'll probably be performing this at the Oscars. So, but she's a great singer, and so the song that she sings is a really powerful song. It feels like they're Let It Go in the film. And Disenchanted, not very good. Kind of boring. It's content made for a streaming service. What do you want me to say? Between this and Sonic 2, I was let down by James Marsden this year. He did come back for Westworld, but Westworld got canceled. I've not seen past the first season, but I liked it. I guess when the second season came out, I wasn't that interested in it. And then I started hearing that it's not as good this year, and I just never continued. It's Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. I don't know. J.J. Abrams was also involved as well, but the first season was good. But I do hear that the show that he's on Netflix is very good. Dead to Me, is that what it's called? It's a Tim Roth show.
Okay.
Yeah. But I guess that's all our Disney talk for today, everybody. So I guess collectively we saw a couple of films that have nothing to do with Disney. Although one, I guess you could kind of figure out a way to have a slight connection. I'll get to that.
Okay.
I saw a film called She Said. Do you know what this film is, Chris?
I've heard about it a little bit. I don't know too much about it, though.
Yeah, so this film is about the New York Times journalist who broke the story about Harvey Weinstein's abuse. So the connection to Disney, I was going to say, was that they talk a lot in the film about Miramax because that was Harvey Weinstein's company, and the owners of Miramax were Disney at one stage. I don't know if they still are, probably not, but they just kind of throw out in the film, like, this is a criticism I have. They throw out these terms that only people who are into films would understand. Like, they talk about Miramax a lot, but Weinstein is no longer involved in Miramax. He wasn't involved when this stuff started coming out. So they also started talking about the Weinstein Company. And it's like, you probably should establish that those are two different companies. But yeah, it could easily be accused of being made because it is a recent event and people are aware of it, so it'll make more money that way, or awards bait or whatever. I don't think that's what was intended. I do think they had honest intentions here, but the events did happen a few years ago, so I understand that point of view. I personally would have waited a little longer to make this film because a problem with it is that all these actors in it, like in real life, the actors that came forward, people like Rose McGowan and Gwyneth Paltrow, like they're in this movie as well. They're over the phone. Like people play their voices. And it definitely wasn't them. It was jarring, especially the Rose McGowan voice. Like that sounded like a Saturday Night Live parody. But Ashley Judd, for example, plays herself, and there's a moment where she comes on board and is treated like this big triumphant moment. And we had one scene with her early. It sort of feels like it's a little out of left field. Again, this may be exactly what happened in real life, but in terms of the flow of the story, it felt jarring in general. Like the movie also does give you this impression at the end that we did it. We exposed and fixed abuse in Hollywood. Now, that's not quite the case, is it? This stuff is still happening today. The story, to be fair, I guess, is about exposing Weinstein, and Weinstein is in prison, and he'll never work in the industry again, so I get him. So that's true. I'm sure the film people would compare this to the most is Spotlight, and I rewatched Spotlight after seeing this to compare them, and Spotlight is definitely a better movie, but I think the thing Spotlight does better is that we learn about the scope of the story through the journalists uncovering more and more information. But Spotlight did a really good job in showing how many people in Boston were aware of how many priests were abusing children and how many people were turning the other way. And they don't do that in She Said. They don't really show how many people in Hollywood were turning a blind eye. And I guess it's because this is being made by Hollywood people that they don't do that. But this is being produced by Brad Pitt's company. And quite famously, Brad Pitt did work with Weinstein again after Weinstein had abused Angelina Jolie. So there's certainly a little portion of this movie that feels a little hypocritical. And there's also stuff that's come out about him. So when it ends, you kind of feel, I feel very hollow. And I think the story of the women coming forward is an important story, and it should be told. But just underneath it, there's all this other stuff I couldn't help but notice. And I will say, a portion of the film I really liked was at the beginning where we see this woman walking her dog, and she stumbles across a film being shot, and she then joins the crew. She becomes a runner on set, and it kind of shows the magic and wonderment of the film industry. And then it harsh cuts to her running, like literally running frantically in tears down the street, and you know what's happened. Like that was really effective to us. So the film isn't without its positives. The cast are all very good, but I get why this film is made. It's an important story, but I just thought there could have been a more interesting way to make it, and it was also probably made a little too soon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so if people want to watch a film that effectively shows industry people turning a blind eye to shitty behavior, watch The Assistants. That's a good movie. It came out a couple years ago now. Julie Garner from Ozark. Good film. I recommend it. So another film that I watched, I'll briefly talk about Tar. Do you know much about Tar?
I know it involves music. I know that.
You are correct. You are correct. So this stars Cate Blanchett. Really good film. Great performance from Cate Blanchett, and a really interesting take. There's a theme here, but an interesting take on watching a celebrity or a person in power's fall from grace. Like, she has this descent into, not madness, but it is like disorder. Like, you watch her life fall apart before your eyes. So she plays Lydia Tarr, Cate Blanchett does, and she's a musician and a composer, but most importantly, she's a highly successful orchestral conductor. It's sort of difficult to talk about these things in the film without spoiling things, but she's clearly been taking advantage of. This is an aspect of the film. It's not what the film is entirely about, but she's been taking advantage of at least one young musician who feels like that they've been seen as successful and as powerful as her. Like, so really, really great film. Like, there's a really creepy atmosphere at times. Like, that's an aspect I don't see many people commending. It's a part of the film I really liked, and one of my favorites of the year. I recommend seeing it, but it is available digitally. That's how I watched it. But yeah, great film. Just very atmospheric, great performances, just totally unique. Yeah, can't say enough good things about Tar. All right, so we both saw The Fabelmans, the new Steven Spielberg movie. I'll let you kick things off first.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, it's a semi-autobiography of Steven Spielberg's life, basically, with him growing a passion for filmmaking and basically all the stuff that was happening in his family at the time. It's not like directly like him though. The main character is Sammy Fabelmans, and you got, but it's basically meant to portray his life. And I thought this was a very good movie, capturing an aspect of, you know, how like I recognize exactly what he's going through in a lot of aspects of his life. especially in the filmmaking degree, and um, I thought all the performances very solid. I have a feeling I know what you're going to complain about this movie. It is that you are kind of not for Spielberg writing scripts.
Yeah, so you finish before I start tearing this movie apart.
Okay. Um, it didn't bother me too much. I mean, there was, I won't lie, there was like questionable dialogue at points. But overall, the story that was being told, I thought, was really well done. And the final scene, I won't spoil it because the final scene is absolutely terrific. Really, really great stuff, and just surprising performance in the final scene. But yeah, I would recommend watching The Fabelmans. It's kind of just my non-spoiler thing, I guess.
I guess for me, the story just didn't grab me the way it has for others. That being said, there's a lot I do appreciate about this film. Like, I love that final shot.
Oh yeah,
and I got it. And I won't lie, I got a kick out of seeing the low budget tricks like Will Spielberg used while he was making films as a teen. But this is going to be an unpopular opinion for me, but there's a reason Spielberg isn't known for his writing. He's written like only like a handful of scripts. But
oh yeah.
I have to call out that confrontation scene with the bully during prom as an example. Like, the dialogue during that scene was just embarrassing.
I mean, again, it's kind of a case where it's like, yeah, a few lines here and there didn't work, but overall, the scene that was being told, I thought, worked pretty well.
No, that's fair. I do get why people are really loving this movie. And that's totally fine. I just don't think the story really grabbed me as much as it has for others. It didn't land for me, I'm afraid.
I think it's due for a rewatch for both of us,
so.
I'd probably say. But yeah, I mean, overall, I really enjoyed watching it. One of the better Spielberg movies I'd say he's made in the last few years.
Fair enough. Though I did
I mean,
enjoy West Side Story quite a bit.
I did too, but it was nice to see, I don't know, this rather than a remake.
Or Ready Player One.
Or Ready Player One.
All right, so it's main event time. We're going to talk about the latest Rian Johnson film, The Last Jedi 2. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, people. It's Glass Onion, a Knives Out story.
Can we like make the Rian Johnson trilogy happen for Star Wars? I know that's probably scrapped now, but can we bring it back?
I would still love to see that very much. But I loved Glass Onion. I was glad we got to see this in theaters. I had a pretty good theater experience seeing it.
Oh yeah,
a small packed theater. People seem to really enjoy it. I had a similar moment when I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, where something really funny was happening. You kind of chuckle, and other people chuckle, and everyone's laughing out loud when you kind of laugh with them. And I had a moment like that in this film, that I know that if I saw this movie alone on my TV, I wouldn't have had that experience. And I'm talking about the sweatshop part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was very funny. I think it might arguably be funnier than Knives Out, but it's a different type of comedy, and it's also a different type of mystery, which I was very surprised by.
I was gonna say, like, it's just overall just a different type of movie than Knives Out.
Yeah.
So Glass Onion, I've actually seen it twice now, and the first theater experience I was with you. We saw it together, and you know, I guess I'll just get audience reaction out of the way. So we had the same audience reaction the first time. When I went to go see it a second time, I had a lot more people in the theater. Like,
Oh, nice.
and they were a lot more responsive, if that's the right word, to the movie. And they laughed at the parts that were funny, but they also like they really got like hooked in the movie. is the scene where like all like, minor spoiler I guess, but like all the lights go out in the building and they were actually like gasping and they were excited to see what happens. It's like this is great, it's an indie uh franchise now and people seem to really love it and that's great.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say with this feeling very different from Knives Out, like I mean they're both whodunits, but Knives Out does something very clever in that it's not really a whodunit for the most of it. Like you're told how something happens, so you're watching how they're gonna get away with something more so than a whodunit. Then you get to the end and you realize there's someone else behind this as well, and I think that's very interesting. And I watched a film a couple months ago called The Last of Sheila, and upon research, it's very clear that Rian Johnson used that film as inspiration for this. And it was written by Stephen Sondheim and Anthony Perkins, and the late Stephen Sondheim cameos on Zoom in this film. He's one of the people that play Among Us with Benoit Blanc, and that was something I was not expecting. Among Us in a movie, in this movie, like it doesn't make sense.
It's fun though.
Yeah.
Unrelated note, they actually at the Game Awards, they actually added a Blanc skin in Among Us, so there's that tie-in now. But
Yeah, and it felt like the Guardians 3 trailer. I don't know about you. James Gunn can say all he wants that the spacesuits in there are an homage to 2001, but I don't know. He's looking sus.
but yeah, back to the movie. I'd say just I need to see it again because it's been a while since I've had Glass Onion in my head, and I went to rewatch Knives Out recently. Um, I don't know if I can really say which one I like more. They're both kind of just equal for me.
Sure.
And I, it's I can't even say which one I think is just overall the better movie. I'm leaning towards Knives Out in that degree, but then there's just a lot of other degrees that I would lean for Glass Onion. Like you said earlier, I think Glass Onion's probably a better mystery. Um, and overall, just the nonlinear storytelling in Glass Onion works really, really well. And rewatching it, I enjoy it so much more because now you have like a full scope of everything that's happening, and there's the little things that you're looking out for. Rian Johnson does this really great thing of both films where he paints different pictures in your heads for how scenes go. And it gives it such great rewatchability to go back and find those little details throughout the film. And yeah, I mean, overall, it was really great mystery, really great performances all around. Dave Bautista, we're back at him again, but yeah, he was great.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any negatives to say about this movie. It was absolutely terrific.
Yeah. And if I can get back to Among Us real quick, it just feels like it's been a long time since Among Us was a thing, I feel like. But I guess people still play it. Children probably do. But that's the thing. This film took place in May 2020.
I was going to point that out. It doesn't
I also didn't know going in. Like, I don't know if that was common knowledge or not, but all these things throughout, like, noticing certain people not wearing masks, or Ethan Hawke comes in and he starts spraying people's mouths with stuff, and I think it might be Benoit Blanc who says, like, that tastes like detergent or something like that, or hand sanitizer, and you realize, oh, it's like when you realize the true nature of Edward Norton's character, you realize that's him thinking he's doing everyone a favor. This is probably some stupid COVID prevention thing that might have been online back then. It was a crazy time.
Yeah.
I guess we could get into some spoilers, though. So I had a little bit of an interesting... we did talk about our theater experience. There was one person sitting behind us who was, like, vocally reacting to things on as they were happening, which was annoying. But I think he was, like, slowly piecing things together. But I think the thing about this movie is that this movie is about stupidity and how the things that are in front of you are just really obvious. Like I'll get into that in a bit. But do you have anything else to say about that or anything?
No, I mean that's pretty much all said. Glass Onion, absolutely terrific. It's on Netflix pretty soon if you haven't seen it, so
Hmm.
definitely give it a watch. Can't wait to see more out of it.
Yeah, I heard someone say they thought this is funnier, and I went, "Ooh, it might be too early for to say." But upon a reflection, I thought, you know what, it might be. It's just a different type of humor, and like I said, the first one definitely has a theme of, and like a lot of films in 2019 had this, but there's definitely an eat the rich type of theme that the first one has, and this one kind of makes fun of, and obviously there's a lot of wealthy characters in this as well, but a lot of phony characters and a lot of fakeness, and that really lends itself into a mystery story. And I don't know if I said the point I was going to make earlier. I mentioned The Last of Sheila, and that film is a bunch of friends that go to their famous friend's boat, and he has a murder mystery for them. And I won't spoil The Last of Sheila. I would recommend it, but something happens and it becomes a real mystery. And obviously something very similar happens, but I was not expecting what happened to happen. So let's get into spoilers now.
All
We'll
right.
dive in now, because I don't know if we can say much more without spoiling it. I'm talking, of course, about Dave Bautista's death.
Yeah, the everything in that scene was pointing to Edward Norton dying, and I thought that's what was going to
Yes.
happen. But then, uh, nope, it was Dave Bautista.
Well,
And
no,
yeah.
here's what I was going to say about my experience with the guy behind me who's, I think, trying to piece the movie together, thinking that he was clever for figuring it out. But it's like, it should be obvious, though, because the thing with Edward Norton's character is that he's a fraud.
Yeah.
And he's not a clever person. He's a stupid person. And so, like, when Batista was choking, he's like, they had the line in the beginning of the film where he says, like, I don't mess with pineapple or whatever. So he's like, oh, his throat's closing up or something. He's got an allergic reaction. And then like Edward Norton like hired a writer to write this mystery. And yeah, so like when you see these things together, it's like it should be obvious though. But then it's like you said, when you get to see the other side of things of like what's really happening, that's when it gets really, really clever.
Yeah.
And like the whole like even Daniel Craig like has a line with everyone said like you should turn the lights off and put the gun on the table or whatever.
And then he pokes fun at that later because
Yeah.
that was actually his plan. He
Hmm.
stole it from Blanc.
Yes. But I thought that the collection of characters was very fun as well, because in a similar way that's different to Knives Out is that they're all family, but some of them don't like each other. And this one, they're all friends, but there's one person that they've clearly backstabbed. I thought that was a very interesting twist on the first film as well. And I think the twist that I found very interesting was suddenly, like, I think a little over halfway through the film, you realize a lot of what you're seeing is kind of a lie. Like
Yeah.
Benoit Blanc in the first half of the film is kind of groveling, like, I'll play any role you want in this mystery game. Like you're kind of like, man, he's so different, and you realize, oh, he's been putting on an act the entire time. Like he's got this whole plan, like how in the first one, Christopher Plummer and Ana de Armas have this plan they have to go along with, and in this one, it's Benoit Blanc and uh, what was her character's name? The twin sister.
Um, Andy was like,
Yeah, Cassandra.
yeah,
But I forget the sister's name.
Helen, I think.
I think you're right, but I thought that was a very clever, and even the little things like, and this isn't a little thing, this is a running gag. Like early in the film, Benoit Blanc is eating something and is like, "This is spicy," something like that, and he gets told he gets given by Edward Norton's character Jeremy Renner's hot sauce, and he uses the hot sauce later as fake blood, and he puts it in his eyes to cry, which I thought was very funny. But yeah, it's just fun seeing like that whole stretch of film where you see the flashbacks to what's been really happening. Like you start to see these scenes in a new light, which is why I can't wait to rewatch this movie.
Oh yeah, and yeah, the rewatch makes what already is just a really fantastic experience like just even more satisfying. And yes, we're already in spoilers, but yeah, you do see Edward Norton put the drink in Dave Bautista's hands. And yeah, it's really great stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like little things like when all these characters arrive, like you see, you learn a lot of things without anyone like saying a word. Like the way they wear masks, you learn all these things about these characters. Like Dave Bautista, for instance, is not wearing a mask. Catherine Hahn is like she forgets to wear a mask at one point, and then Birdie, like she has like it's not even a mask. It's not even a mask. It's just jewelry. Like you learn, it's just a great example of showing and not telling.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about Glass Ceiling? Because I give it a big old thumbs up. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. Possibly, I need to think about more, but it might be my favorite movie of the year so far. But I'll think about more, and I want to watch it again once it's on Netflix. But yeah, really, really great stuff here.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this this discussion tonight. So thank you all so much for listening. Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd. And those are the two main ones.
Nice. Yeah, you can find me there as well. I'm also on Twitter, at least for now. So yeah, we'll see you all next time. Take care and happy holidays and a happy new year.